All right, guys, today's Friday, August 4th, 2023. So the days are, man, they're clicking down quick, you know what I mean? So, if you caught the video that I posted late last night, you kind of see what I'm in for. Oh, this has turned into a big fiasco, but when I look at stuff that's been done like this to a car, you've got to fix that stuff, because this is what makes the car hacked up. If all this stuff gets repaired and it's done pretty good, it'll be a nicer car. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go ahead and run to a store over here and see if they've got some pretty thick sheet metal that's that long. I'm going to go ahead and put thicker metal in here, and that way it'll add strength to the trunk floor, because this trunk floor is so weak. It is so weak from just all the stress and stuff that it's had put on it. It's kind of sunk in a little bit, and you know, once the gas tank goes in there and he stops at the gas station and fills it up, it's going to add more weight to it, and it's going to sag even more. So I'm thinking if I put in a really heavy duty piece of sheet metal here, this will, you know, help strengthen it up here by this bead that's in here that's pressed in it. So I looked at trunk floors last night online. You know, a lot of muscle cars and stuff, they sell a trunk floor for those muscle cars, and they're cut directly in half. They're flanged, but you can do it as halves. And so if they had a half trunk floor, it would have been awesome. But all they have for a Tri-5 is the left section, the center section, and the right section. All I really need is the left, but I'm not going to get all of it. So, you know, an entire trunk floor would have, I think it was like $600 or something ridiculous. And then there's oversized freight and all that kind of crap. I mean, as it stands, I can refix, you know, hammer and dolly all this stuff out and put it in there. But, you know, if you had your car at a shop and it was, you know, a little messed up here and there, it would be cost effective. If you're paying over $100 an hour shop rate, which 99% of the shops out there are going to be that price, it'd be cost effective for you to buy the trunk floor than them having to go in and try to repair what you have. So with me being not $100 an hour, this is kind of cost effective doing it this way. But there's going to be a lot of work done here. I got to tell you what I would like to do. This is what I wanted to do yesterday, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of fab work involved, and it ended up costing a lot more money. Let me just rephrase that. If this was my car with the flipped leaf springs, this is what I would do. I would cut this center section out of the trunk floor, and I would actually cut this strip right here, this whole strip right here all the way up. I would cut that strip out. I would move this section of the trunk floor over, stitch it up, tack it up, not run full stitches because it'd tweak it all to hell. Put that strip over here. Then you got your factory really heavy duty pressed in beads here. There's two more runners under here. You just can't see it for this reinforcement plate. But anyway, those are for the gas tank weight. So those would be in the proper location for having to move that gas tank over in the center to get it away from the leaf springs, which have been flipped to the inside. So that's how I would do it. But there's going to be a lot of work involved there. So what I want to do first thing is I want to get under there and I want to check off measurements on where they've mounted the gas tank mounting stuff. Steve and I tried to put the gas tank in last year, and it was all we could do to get the gas tank up there. And for some reason, I don't remember, because, you know, I've slept since then. I don't know what I did with it. There's a big old thick piece of rubber that we cut from some old conveyor belt that we was going to put in between the tank and the floor to take up space, because the gas tank was loose, if I remember right, up in there. So something's not kosher for that tank to fit like it needs to. But anyway, I'm going to measure off where they put the gas tank mounting brackets, support brackets and stuff. I want to measure off the four-door, because the four-door doesn't have a gas tank in it or anything like that. So I can kind of make sure that that stuff got put in there properly. But even if they did put their stuff in there properly with those little pieces of thin square tubing with just a few tacks here and there, those are going to need to be stitched up in there to be stronger. So that's what I'm kind of hoping for, you know, time's sake, that they do have those things in the proper location where I can just go get up there, clean the paint off of it, and then put a good stitch weld on them. So they're going to be on there and they're not going to break off or fall off or anything. But I mean, you know, I'm not. Well, you know what I'm thinking. It's probably not going to be in the right spot, but that's a plan. Just more trunk floor work today, but I am going to have to go to the store and get some sheet metal. So I'm going to look for some thick stuff to put in there. That's the way I did my hard top, because I feel the thicker, the heavier the metal, the stronger it will make that trunk floor on that long line on the toward the inside. So that's what I want to do. Just depends on what I can find, because that's going to be a pretty long piece. And if I have to make a trip to a steel supplier, that's going to be even more money. I didn't want an extra big old giant piece of steel here. I just need a small piece. And I know they have that stuff like at Tractor Supply and Lowe's and Ace Hardware. I just don't know if they're going to have a piece long enough. And I don't want to put a piece together to make it long enough. I want one good piece to put in there. I still have to bend the end because the trunk floor has a kick up at the back. So I got to get started. All right, so this part right here was all, some of this was bent. The top edge was bent over that way, causing this part to be at an angle. So I tried to straighten this up the best I could. So once I got it out where it needs to be, this part is now going like this, the cut is. So I'll have to square this back off with a grinder so the piece will fit back in here. So this flange was all bent down right here. So I went in there and dug the seam sealer out and hammered and dollied this edge back up flat. I've got to tack weld a hole up that's in here, and then I'll have to go back and seam seal right there where I took the seam sealer out. All of this flange I had to work. This part up here had lots of highs and lows in it, so I squared it up. And then this part of the floor right here was really low. So what I ended up doing was I used a concrete block on my floor jack down there, and I had this, and I was jacking it up, putting pressure on it, and then hammering around it, and then I'd let the jack off. So now I got this back where stock part is, so it has a slight little roll to it instead of being like this. Now I've got to go in here and try to straighten up all of this mess. Like that whole thing's high right down the center right there, and there's a low spot through here. This is super high right here, and this is all, you can see like that's a crease right here. So what I'm using is just a heel dolly, and I'm using an actual shrinking hammer. This is the one that has the little teeth on it. So that shrunk this down really good, and it's pretty tight. This sometimes takes out your oil canning. So anyway, I'm going to have to use this and this on this whole thing up through here to square this up. And see, I worked on this flange a little bit, got this a little bit straightened up. I think I'm going to remove this little bracket here permanently because it doesn't need to be there anymore, because the gas tank has to be over here. This little bracket is for the carriage bolt. So I'm going to remove it and then cut this little area out right here in this low area. I got to cut a patch out to fit, butt weld it in there, grind both sides. Then I'm going to go in here and grind their weld stuff here, and I'm going to go in here and weld all this little funky looking stuff. I'm just going to go in there and weld a lot of that up and then go back and grind it to where it flows nice and smooth. I'm going to have to add a little weld right in here on this, grind it, and then after that's all done, then I can put a little patch piece in here. So it's pretty involved, man. It's proven to be quite a job going in here and hammer and dollying all this. So this part right here was all caved in, so I pulled it up a little bit. It still needs a little bit more dolly work. I kind of just used it's pretty much all I got that I can use, is a 1/2 inch drive long extension from the bottom, hitting it with a hammer to pull all this stuff up, because the frame's in the way and everything, so I gotta have something to get up in there. So, man, I tell you, it just kind of sucks. But hopefully I'll get it. I'd like to try to at least get all this area repaired and maybe the patch put back in today. That's kind of the goal anyway. I'm using the new no good anymore aircraft stripper. That stuff used to be awesome, now it sucks. So I put it on here about 45 minutes ago because it says it removes paint in 45 minutes. It used to take 45 seconds. Anyway, I'm trying to remove their crud off here so I can get it to clean metal so I can straighten it all out. And so I'll probably have to put another coat on. I think that's going to take to strip top and bottom of this. She just used a bunch of this crappy stuff. Anybody want some barbecue? Might have a little wang to it. I guess I'll let it sit another 45 minutes. Yay! This is the trunk floor of my wife's four-door. That's what it's supposed to look like. Nice and flat down through there. So when Steve brought me the parts for the car a couple days ago, he had one felt strip. Just one, and it's the long one, which is actually for the garnish molding. One front door garnish molding. There should be one for the other front door garnish molding, and there should be two more for the rear garnish moldings. So I better check, because I didn't. Yeah, it's in there. I was going to say it should have felt strips. So you have an inner and outer felt strips on a hard top, so the inners are there. There should be the outers are on the car like they're supposed to be. The inners go on the garnish moldings, which are in my house. They're not on yet. Hard tops don't have outer felt strips. They just have inners. So when Steve brought the parts, he only had the felt strip for the garnish molding here. Only one. So he's missing another long straight garnish molding for the other side, and he's missing the two garnish molding felt strips here. So back when I was buying parts for my car, my hardtop, I actually ordered another set of felt strips by accident. So I ended up with two, and I want to say they're like 70 bucks for the set. So I have the garnish moldings that his shop lost here. Am I going to charge him for him? No, I'm not, because he's my cousin. He's already been raked over the coals pretty good, so yeah. That stuff was in my shed. If he can use it, I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to put it on the car. So, kind of nice, you know, to have spare parts around here, because you never know when you're going to need them. All right, guys, so I got the car jacked up. I've got the floor jack on the frame. That way, the wheel comes up off the ground and the leaf spring unloads. So it's as if you're changing a tire, or you know, you're driving at high speed and you go across a bridge that has a whoop in it. You know, your car hits the whoop, and then the body, the suspension stretches out and then it comes back down. So what I got going on here is when that's up, you can see this curved shackle is going in front of the fill tube right there. There is no clearance for the fill tube to go in there unless that gas tank goes back. So I went out to the shed and I got my 4-doors fill tube, and that's about kind of the way it's supposed to go. Now keep in mind, these leaf spring hangers are supposed to be on the other side of the frame. They moved them to the inside to get big tires and wheels into the car. So this is where the crap show starts, right here. So I've got the tube laying on the frame, right across it, and there is no way that's going to line up. That fill tube is too high, setting on the frame to go in there. So there's two issues here. Fill tube won't go in straight, and the shackles are going to hit the fill tube. So if he's driving down the highway and hits a really bad spot in the road, and the car suspension unloads a little bit, this is going to come up and hit that fill tube, knock it out of the tank, and gas is going to go everywhere. So two issues here. So I'm trying to figure out why the tank is so low from the frame, because even if the gas tank was moved over here where it's supposed to be, you know, they've moved the gas tank brackets over because they moved the leaf springs in. Even if that gas tank was over, it'd still be hitting the frame. So this I'm trying to figure out, and I think I might have figured it out. So these gas tanks and the trunk floor here, these two deep runners right here, there's one, you better to view them right here. So these two deep runners here, these two deep runners right here. This has your low area of your gas tank right here and right here. So that's going to pick me up, what is that, a ½ inch or so of clearance to get that tank up more to the floor. Because right now the trunk, the tank is down off the floor. So I don't know, man. This is why you do mock-up when you're building a car. So they mocked up the gas tank probably on the body rotisserie, and then they never did anything after the body got put back on the chassis. So this is where all the problems happen right here. So I'm trying to figure out what I need to do to correct all of this domino effect stuff here. So to make the factory gas tank work, not only is the fill tube got to be extended, which I have a 56 one right there, because now it has the electric gas door behind here. So I had him get a 56 Chevy gas tank fill tube because it curves up behind the tail light. 55s originally have a gas door on the side, but you know, I'm just trying to figure out right now how to get that tank up above that. But the other problem is the shackle's going to hit the fill tube. So the tank would have to go back for clearance for that, off the shackle. The tank's got to go back and the tank's got to go up. So how do I do that? If the tank goes back further, when the suspension and the rear end cover goes up in, the rear end cover could hit the tank. So I don't see how this is going to work at all. Like, I don't see a solution for this. Those leaf springs should have been left in the factory location. I think I just figured out one solution right here. I think I'm done for the day. I am tired of messing with this cobbled together hacking crap that somebody's done. I am having to spend time out here in 105-degree heat trying to figure out how to fix what they screwed up. So I think I'm just going to take me an early day. I think I'm done. Thanks for watching.